is the European Water Technology Platform for Water. And we started organizing Water Project Europe a number of years ago. We organized, I mean, I don't know how many, I mean, but quite a few number of Water Projects Europe across the years. And the main purpose was, and is today, to put together different experience from different projects working in the research and innovation sector. Projects funded by Research and Innovation Framework Program or other funding programs of the European Commission or large national programs which are focused on the water sector and the innovation for the water sector. Water Europe is the voice and the promoter of the innovation for the water and related sectors in Europe and beyond. And the purpose of this Water Project Europe at the conference, international conference here in Lyon, was, I mean, to really to gather together a number of projects which are wetland and other based solutions oriented and focused, and to find out, I mean, the different experience and the different feeling and perception of what has been and what are the challenges, what are the way to address them. Also because what is important to say about Water Project Europe, which is Water Project Europe is able to extract from projects technological outcomes and insights, non-technological insights and information, also relevant to policy development, and is also an excellent agora for showing the results of the project in the perspective of the market uptake of the solutions. Next, please. Okay, thank you. So we're going to have a quite intensive session. Water Project Europe is made, this Water Project Europe is made of 3 sessions, where you see that we are going to present 5+1 projects. Well, I say 5 was +1, because the first project, the one, is HYDROUSA, which is a project which is going to phase out next year with a high level of maturity and experience. And the colleague and friend, I mean, Simons is here for giving the keynote speaker of this Water Project Europe. Then, I mean, you see, this is the first session where you have the projects bringing up the experience. Then we have another session after the coffee break, which is dedicated to presenting the different outlook, different perception, different views of different stakeholders in this very important process for the development of innovative solutions for the water sector, particularly when it goes, I mean, to wetlands and other based solutions. And so we are going to have, I mean, the point of view of the cities, the point of view of the financiers or the investors, the point of view of how to engage citizens and engage all the actors in this different process, and the point of view of those projects that have been able to provide tangible outcomes in the sector. And what is important also is that in this session, we're going also to have a look of the implementation side. What is the implementation side? Is to many angles is the utility. So we have the cities, we have the utility, we have who is going to give us insight about how we can provide financial support to this difficult transformation of the urban areas, which wants, I mean, to exploit the potential innovation of the MBS and wetlands. And then we are going to have a panel discussion where all the speakers will be requested to join here on the stage and discuss in a very talk show manner about what we have been discussing up to now, up to the end of Water Project Europe. Something more. I mean, this is really a big thanks, I mean, to Jamie for supporting the implementation of Water Project Europe, this international conference that I find a great opportunity for really gathering the projects and gathering, I mean, different words, able to really to provide, I mean, that level of innovation which is needed to solve and address the challenges of the water sector in the urban area, and not only in the urban area. So we start with the keynote. And I have really the big pleasure, the super pleasure, to invite Simos Malamis from National Tech University of Athens, who is the coordinator of HYDROUSA. And HYDROUSA today is a kind of, say, master of this water projects Europe. So I leave you the floor. Thank you so much for being with us, and well, listening to you.
Thank you, Andrea. Jamie, Pedro, thanks a lot for the invitation and the floor. And before I talk about the project, just give me a second to tell you a short story. When I was in Brussels for the opening first weeks of the project, there was a meeting and a hand going up, and they asked me, why is Europe funding American projects? I say, it's not an American project. Well, the acronym is HYDROUSA. Well, it's not HYDROUSA, it's HYDROUSA, which is an old name of Tinos Island. Back then, I guess there were quite some water available. So the project is a mature project. We are concluding it in a few months. So I have a lot of things to share with you. And if we're ready, I would say that this project is funded within the context water in the area of circular economy, and it focuses on small decentralized schemes integrating nature-based solutions with other gray infrastructure at a local decentralized level. So the project is implemented in 6 demonstration sites in 3 Greek islands, okay, it's fine. Oh. That one? Okay. I will come here. No? Okay. Next slide, please. So if I were to present the project in one slide, this is here, the totality of the HYDROUSA solutions. We have water circles for rainwater harvesting, for domestic wastewater treatment, for seawater desalination, and all of them are closed loop solutions focusing in water scarce decentralized areas. And there we have different loops with integrating different solutions. I don't have the time to talk about everything, so I think I will focus my presentation in what is the most relevant. That is the next slide, please. So Hydro 1 and 2 is 2 solutions. Before that, this is a figure taken by the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive evaluation, and it actually shows the loads of nutrients and the carbon that are sent to our water bodies and could be avoided. And with orange and yellow, these are the loads that correspond to individual and other appropriate systems and small agglomerations. So these are the ones that our HYDROUSA project is targeting, and they are quite significant. So here you can see the Hydro 1 and 2 demo site. It treats the wastewater of a village of 500 people, and it integrates anaerobic processes together with a 2-stage vertical flow constructed wetland. UV disinfection, and then the reclaimed water is used to irrigate, or actually to fertirrigate a 1 hectare agroforestry field. The agroforestry field was also mentioned in Anakleto's morning speech. Is a field that integrates trees, shrubs, bushes, annual crops. It is more labor intensive, but also provides increased income for agriculture. We also have the sludge that is taken from the anaerobic reactor managed by reed bed, drying reed bed. One of the challenges we had was the permitting process of the whole scheme. And this took 17 months. And the first thing was to convince the water utility to go for a constructed wetland, because it was not a mainstream solution of activated sludge process coupled with water reuse. So here you can see, this is the old wastewater treatment plant that still exists. And here I will guide you through the wastewater. We take wastewater from here. This is the anaerobic process, 2 parallel reactors. This is the biogas holding tank. Here is the sludge drying reed bed and the composter. And then we have the wastewater taken to first to the saturated vertical flow wetland, and then to these 3 are the unsaturated vertical flow wetlands, and then to the post-treatment, and then Hydro 2 is where we have the agricultural irrigation, unrestricted agricultural irrigation. So here is a video. If it plays, it would be nice to see. You can see the totality of the wastewater. Here is one of the agricultural fields. You can see, well, the pictures, the quality is not, yeah. So it's difficult to see, but these are the 3 wetlands here. The unsat, here is a saturated one. Here is the anaerobic process taking place upstream. You can see it's basically the plant is in the middle of nowhere. So it's actually a very remote area. You can see here from the drone, the scenery is basically nothing plus olive oils. And these 2 fields here are irrigated with reclaimed water. You can see there, and the other 2 with tap water. And I also have some facts that they are much greener, and it's maize. It's a maize cultivation mainly. Again, here you see the 2 fields that is a 2,500 square meter irrigation field. And then we have, here is the anaerobic scheme. And here is the bigger agroforestry system, is around 7,000 square meter of land, where we have around 10,000 different crops that are irrigated with reclaimed water, Class A. I will show you a few facts later on. I will skip this because I think we are short of time. There is a time lapse of the wetlands, but I think we don't have time to. Okay, so there is a presentation by Taxiarchis, who is here, on Wednesday about details about the process, and so I just summarized a bit of the groups and basically his work regarding the influent and effluent solids, COD, and ammonia. The key thing to grasp here is that we are able to consistently provide Class A reclaimed water, thanks also to the good design of IRIDRA, of the wetland, and the team of Fabio. You see here the level of COD are below 60, below 10 TSS, and this is also the Greek water use limit of 10. So we are able to consistently provide this, and this is important because when we were in the permitting stage, we could not prove this. So we were forced basically to add either a filtration, an extra filtration step, or a membrane. We went for a membrane system that we're not basically using, but we had to do it to get the permit. So, and this is one of the very few systems, I think it's the second one, Fabio, that we will have an ETV, that is an ongoing process that we will get an ETV verification, environmental technology verification. So here is a view of the fields, what we found and what we created. As I mentioned, it's a rich agroforestry system. And we have developed a very nice and local supply chain. We provide the local crops to the local communities. Also, some of them go to deprived families. We have farmers. We have livestock workers that they take the maize for their animals, and this is all very, very local. Now, here is a graph showing the impact of fertile irrigation compared to tap water use for maize and barley. And you can see here with the green is the maize and barley irrigated with treated wastewater after the wetland disinfection, and the blue one is tap water. I have to say, I missed out that with the wetland, you have the possibility to remove or not nutrients, depending on whether you choose to recycle or not from one wetland to the other. So there is a flexibility to remove or not nitrogen. Question: does fertile irrigation enhance biodiversity of the soil? So we employed a biologist who is undertaking a 2-year investigation of how the soil microfauna is actually affected by irrigating with nutrient-rich reclaimed water. And some of the first results is based on the nematodes count, that here the green is the soil samples where it is receives treated wastewater, and the tap water is with the blue. You see that there is an increase during the irrigation period, and then when we stop to irrigate after November, we have a decrease. And also, after 1 year of investigation, we see that the soil goes from nutrient-depleted, nitrogen-depleted zone into the nitrogen-enriched zone. And we are further investigating this, to have some conclusive results after a 2-year investigation. One of the keys to success of our project is that we worked from the very beginning with the local community. We co-developed, co-designed some of our solutions. We discussed from the very beginning with the water utility about the wetlands and the need for it. We co-developed the agroforestry system with local farmers. We took into account their feedback regarding the parameters to be monitored, and we involved them in the whole supply chain. But HYDROUSA is not only about Greek islands. We have more than 25 replication sites in Europe, in the Mediterranean, and beyond. According to our obligations, we have soft actions, but in some cases, we go beyond that. For example, in Gorgona Island in Italy, with IRIDRA, University of Marche, and ASA, the water utility, are going on to construct a replication of HYDROUSA in this island of Italy. And we have been acknowledged for our work. We have received numerous prizes, including the Water, Energy, Food, Ecosystems Award from the Prima Foundation, and also the award on the Med Climate Change Adaptation given by ADEME, Union for the Environment, and also the Best European Project Award from Verde Tech Fair. Last slide before the final slide is I would like to invite you to the final conference we are doing in Athens in June, 7 to 9 of June 2023, which will be the final and concluding section within the framework of HYDROUSA project. And then a couple of, let's say, messages. I think it's important to support MBS implementation through co-design, co-creation approaches involving local community. We are working to see how NBS can support biodiversity, not only in the usual way of the wetland itself, but also by the fertirrigation practice and legislation. Yes, it can be a barrier, but I think also it could provide opportunities. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Simos. Well, I think that we learned a lot today from the HYDROUSA project. And as I said, I mean, we have 5 projects beyond HYDROUSA. 5 projects that represent really an important picture of what can be done to exploit, I mean, the nature-based solutions and what kind of development we can have, I mean, in the future years. Now, I would like, I mean, to call Xavier Leroux, for the presentation of the Solar Biode project. Thank you for being with us, and the floor is yours. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, my pleasure. So thank you for inviting me for this presentation. And so what I will present to you is not a project, but a program, just to be clear. So it's an ambitious, very recent French program on nature-based solutions called Solar Biode. And the objective is really transformative change towards sustainability through nature-based solutions. This program is led by CNRS and INRAE. We lost the PPT. Okay, thanks. Maybe comme ça. You will.
I need to, yes, because we are also.
Okay, so next slide, please.
But it has a delay due to the internet, so you know.
Okay, so the context is that in France, back to the European plan for relance, I don't know the term in English, relance, to boost economy, to boost social, economic, and environmental impact. Back to this European plan, there is a French plan, and the government has decided to select a few sectors, around 15 in total, from materials to medicine to whatever. And one of them is nature-based solutions through this program. And why? Because, well, you know very well that we experience very unsustainable human activities generating the interwind crisis of biodiversity and climate change. And this has huge impact for well-being, for economy, and there is a need indeed for transformative change. Next one. And in the context of this conference, you know very well, we have different options facing this. The traditional gray approach, using focused solutions. That is, you have one problem or very few problems, and you will try to tackle one or two issues like this in a rather fixed way. That is, you do not ask too much resilience, for instance, in the context of climate change or whatever. Sustainability is not always the main part of the evaluation of the process. So it can be true for a picture above for treating wastewater, below to find solutions against warming in cities by elaborating adequate buildings. And so a new way, will be quick on this, you know very well this, and nature-based solutions corresponding to more systemic, adaptable, resilient, and sustainable solutions. That's to be said, it's not the solutions, and very often, most of the time, it will be hybrid solution. What I've seen just before, I think it was a hybrid when you look at the design, which is very fine. We have to recognize that we need to demonstrate the potential and the limits of these nature-based solutions. Next slide, please. And in this context, I want to maybe also regarding to the questions raised by the next previous speaker, nature-based solutions, they are based on protection, restoration, or sustainable management of ecosystems, and actually very often socio-ecosystems, to tackle societal challenges. So it's clearly anthropologic view, and we expect from them social, economic, and environmental benefits, and very important, they always include benefits for biodiversity. The way they are defined, you cannot call a solution of NBS if you don't have benefits for biodiversity. Next slide, please. And so I will skip this one. Next slide. And it's of interest to realize that nature-based solutions, they can call very different ways to manage ecosystems and social ecosystems. So it's taken from a publication in Gaia in 2015, and you can see the x-axis. You can have type 1 nature-based solutions which are based on protection. And one example, for instance, for you would be protecting natural wetlands. And then you have type 2, which correspond to a management of ecosystem to some extent. And then we have the type 3, high interventions from humans, and very often it can go up to the building of artificial ecosystems, for instance, for you, building completely new wetlands. So we see that nature-based solutions, they encompass very different ways to engage with nature. Next slide, please. So after this brief, in France, maybe in other countries, but in France for sure, we have a specific situation where we have many actors, stakeholders at the national and local level engage in the implementation of nature-based solutions with demonstrators, communication, raising awareness, but this is made very often through relatively empirical solutions. And what we lack, what we miss really is support, organized support from research. And I would say also a research organized to provide support. Because of course you do realize that we are talking about very systemic solutions, calling for a very specific research. It's not a research that a single discipline is able to provide, for instance. So we do need to revise the way research can be shaped and can bring support. Next one. And to do this, the graph on the left shows very well that the research is not very organized and not able to provide a lot of knowledge basis for NBS. It's derived from the WOS, and you see that it's a very recent research on NBS. So for this program, we have identified 4 main knowledge gaps to be tackled. The first one is really the ecological processes, and moreover, the role of genetic diversity and evolutionary potential. It's amazing to see that NBS Everybody agrees they should be adaptable solutions, but we see biodiversity mostly at the level of species, of taxon, rather than genetic diversity and adaptation potential. Two, it's norms, rules, financial tools, governance systems, etc., that favor or can impair nature-based solutions. Three, it's the evaluation of nature-based solution performance, how to evaluate these very holistic solutions. We expect a lot of outcomes from them. And what are the mechanisms allowing their scaling up and scaling out? And finally, scenarios and models for nature-based solutions, not only for today, but also for the future and the global changes. Next one. So it's a choice, of course. Huh? You can imagine other challenges. Okay. Now, maybe one less? No? Okay, sorry. Okay, so the objective of this program is to generate transformative changes, but first in the research community itself. To jeopardize and modify the research agenda towards more systematic approaches, so ways to make sure that the French research is able to tackle this kind of systematic approach. Second, to understand the biological, economic, and social basis of nature-based solutions at the same time, I would say, and to rethink access to information, training, and education. And these correspond to an organizational challenge, knowledge gap challenge, and knowledge transfer challenge. Keep in mind, one of the priority we have for nature-based solution, it's for urban areas, including water issues in urban areas. Next one. And to do this, we will activate different tools as a program. That is, we will fund living labs, equipment, networks, knowledge hubs, education, higher education, training for professionals, but also we will launch calls for research projects. We will fund shares for excellence, etc. So a systematic approach, and it's relatively rare in France to have the possibility through a single program to do this in a consistent manner. Next slide. And thanks to this, you will see that on the right, when it arrives, you will see the outcomes we expect from the program. So what we want to do is first to launch a network, a national network of living labs on nature-based solutions. Second, to understand and model processes underlying NBS processes, ecological, social, political, etc., and economic processes. And then, of course, to help science-based assessment and indicators for NBS, determinants, determining nature-based solution deployment at scale, and as I said, education, training, expertise, and innovation with practitioners. Okay, how to do this? I have only 2 slides left, I think. First originality for this program, it's a 9-year program. So again, it's relatively rare to have this. So we can develop this with a longer term perspective. We have at this stage to start more than 44 million euros in cash, but it's at the level of France. Huh? So, okay, it's a lot, but it's not so much. But we, of course, hope to have leverage effects to increase this. And the final outcome expected, it's knowledge basis to be reinforced, to provide proofs of concept for NBS, and to reveal their potential on trade-offs at stake, which is very important, trade-offs. It's not super solutions, it's more complex than this. And finally, to help to revisit social cultural norms, legal, policy, financial frameworks, etc. If we are successful in doing this and in revealing the potential, we should prepare a national strategy on nature-based solutions. That is, the government would then develop a national plan for nature-based solution in France to help further and to prepare the development, deployment at scale of nature-based solution in France. Okay, and the last slide, was one concrete example for Lyon, for instance. And in the middle, you have to start at the start of the program in 2023. We will start with a living lab in Lyon on nature-based solutions in Lyon City, including, of course, water challenges, but not only, a range of challenges. Chair for excellence, a knowledge hub, an education action to prepare, for instance, graduate school on nature-based solutions. A regional expert hub. One problem is that practitioners, they have difficulties very often to find the right experts, certificate expert to help them, and experts from different disciplines. And in addition to this, it's already more than 2.1 million. In addition to this, we will launch competitive calls to fund research projects. So you imagine that the objective is really to help the researchers working on this to reorganize a bit the way they are working, maybe in a more systematic manner, in particular, tackling a range of issues. And of course, for Lyon, the objective is to make Lyon a hotspot for research on nature-based solutions at the interface between challenges linked to biodiversity, water, health, and urban challenges. Thanks for this. And I have not said, but of course, we will engage with international colleagues, collaborators to do this. And we will fund a range of postdoc, PhDs. So the link with the international will be relatively high. Thanks.
Thank you very much. It's impressive. And at the same time, I mean, it's also an opportunity for, because you said, I mean, a number of magic words, like, I mean, living labs and systemic approach, which is something that we cannot escape any longer, because we need, I mean, the involvement of all the stakeholders, not only the water sector, stakeholders on the territory, and we need, I mean, to leave behind, I mean, our shoulders, the linear approach, which didn't work, I mean, never worked, and now we have the proof that cannot work really any longer, particularly for the water sector. So thank you so much. I think that's will be a lot of interesting points, I mean, to discuss later on. Thank you. Now we have another kind of project, which is a cost action. Cost action has a different shape, a different approach from the research innovation project of the framework program for research innovation that we are used to see. And I would be really happy to call Günther Langergräber to take the floor and give his insight about this initiative. And well, yes, I think one of the 3 or the 4. Mike is okay. Thank you so much for being with us, and please take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. I think this is not 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. This is working. Thank you, Andrea, for the nice introduction. Yes, my name is Günther Langergräber. I'm from Boku University in Vienna, Austria, and I still have the pleasure to chair this cost action on circular cities. As you can see, we have been running these cost actions now for 4 years. We still have half a year to go. And may I ask for the next slide, please? We already heard about the challenges by the previous speakers. And what do we think in Circular City is that nature-based solutions are one of the tools where we can cope with these challenges and are a way to make our urban environments to facilitate these transitions that we need. In contrast to Simo's presentation on HYDROUSA, we are focusing now on the urban environment and not on decentralized solutions. I wanted to show you the video, but we skipped the video because of the connection. I just tell you briefly in this video, it's an animation video of about 2 minutes. You see our ideas. And when you go to YouTube, where it's available, you have subtitles in more than 30 languages. So in all the languages from Europe, you have the subtitles there. That was a joint effort of the community that we translated all these subtitles. It's where we also have Arabic, Chinese, and other languages that are not European languages, but that's there. Okay, let's go for the next one. Yeah, what's a cost action? Andrea already mentioned it's something special. It does not fund research, it only funds networking activities. You can see some of those activities here. And the research has to come from other sources. So we have, all the participants have their research projects where we try to harmonize the outcomes of these research projects. We have people from HYDROUSA, from Multisource, from all these big European projects we have in our consortium. So if you just go on, here you can see the network. So we have, when we started 4 years back, we were the first cost action where all countries participated from the beginning. So all eligible countries in the cost action. So it's about 40 countries now that we have, and it's about 650 people that receive emails on a regular basis, but half of them are about very active over the time. And as I mentioned, we have people colleagues from all these European funded projects on NBS, on circular economy in our network. And yes, and we go to the next slide. So what is the main outcome that we achieved up to now? Up to now, it's mainly papers. We started with reviewing the state of the art, what has been done up to now. And this has been published in a special issue that you can see here, all open access. And then we developed our framework. That's the second point here. It's also in a special issue, and we move on to the next slide, please. What is the framework? We were somehow then also hit by the pandemic, and we had to move to the virtual world. And we had a series of virtual workshops where we developed this framework. And we looked into how nature-based solutions can address the urban circularity challenge. I'll mention this a little bit more in the future, on the next slide. And then we developed we looked at which type of technologies, of systems are there, and how we can use it. So it's already there, that's fine. What are these urban circularity challenges? We heard before, nature-based solutions can have can address different functions in our city, like biodiversity, like climate change adaptation, but we were focusing specifically on these circularity challenges, meaning that we want to use nature-based solutions to close cycles in the city. And these cycles, it's a little small here in the inner circle. It's of course stormwater management. We heard from Katharina before. We have this issue here, but we also have treat and reuse water, wastewater that we also heard about here. But then we go on with nutrients, with material recovery, food and biomass production, the energy cycle, but also nature-based solutions can be used to get new functions to old buildings. So for this building system recovery. And this blue thing, I don't know what to do with it, but we can go to the next. It's on this side, but I don't. We have a blue thing here. Can you just to remove this one? But we can go to the next slide if you can do this. It shows you the categorization of nature-based solutions that we have been coming up, and we have nature-based solutions that could be technologies like a treatment wetland that we're talking here, like a green wall that we have heard here, or it can be more spatial units, for example, like a park or orchard or something that can all be used in cities. And we clustered them a little bit like what is the main purpose of their application. And you see on the lower corner in the middle, you see those that are used for stormwater management. And then you have on the upper left corner some units that can be used for food and biomass production and so on. Because we were targeting closing loops, and especially for some aspects like nutrient recovery, we also had to include some non-nature-based solutions, because it's always a set of these different units if you want to make a solution, you have to combine different technologies to make it really circular at the end. We can move on. Okay, again, the framework is we had this classification. So we looked in the different Horizon projects. So usually each of these projects comes up with their own list of NBS that can be used. We try to harmonize this. We have now a big list, this list of terminology, a clear definition of this NBS and these subcategories, as I mentioned. And just to get to the end, what are now the final activities that we plan? I didn't mention our third main deliverable, that because that's still to be done, this guidance tool. How can you use this, what I presented you now in a nutshell? Our framework, and it should be possible for different stakeholders with different interests to find the need, to find those information that they need. It will be a web-based tool and the different stakeholders I mentioned. What else still we are doing? We have, we are using our material to develop a training course specifically targeted for city officials, administrators, city planners to overcome the barriers for NBS implementations. And still in March, towards the end of the action, we still have a first pilot training to test this with a real city case. Yeah, and this will be one of the last things we do. And we also have running an online course. And if we can get the next slide, please. This has been started. It's still running until mid of December. It's a self-paced online course that you can see maybe if it comes sometime later on. Yeah, it's very. And you can maybe click again, but because it takes so long. Okay, there's this online course that's we implemented is in the CapNet platform. That's a well-established platform for online courses. It's a self-paced course. And yeah, if you click one more, please. Where you can see the modules of this online course. It was 4 modules, and yeah, you can see this information. I'm sure the slides will be shared somewhere at the end. And we can go to the final slide. I think it's then the one that I think that will come. Let's see. No, I'm at the end. I want to thank you for your attention, and I would also like to, oh no, the website, of course, and circularcity.eu, where you find the link to the video. If you click on the YouTube button, you get to our YouTube channel and all the other social media. And now the final slide, where I want to acknowledge also the co-chair of the action, Natasha Atanasova from the University of Ljubljana, who could not be here today, but yeah, thanks for the opportunity again, Andrea, and thanks for your attention.
Very much, Milton. Thanks. Thank you. Another very interesting point of view, and from a cost action. I think the cost action is one of the oldest. Is the oldest program for research and innovation, particularly for research from the European Union. Yes, yeah, it's the oldest one. So it is valid. It started more than 30 years ago, 50 years ago. Come on, it's really a long time. Yeah, so it means that, I mean, it's really, really valid. Now we jump into the research and innovation framework program with a project which is, let's say, it's a common friend of many colleagues here, which is the multi-source project. And I am really pleased to give the floor to Fabio Masi from HYDROUSA. Will give us, I mean, the insight of this project that we had the pleasure of a startup here in Lyon a few months ago. Thank you, Fabio. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, so may I have the two first? So yeah, Title of the project is Modular Tools for Integrating Enhanced Natural Treatment Solutions in Urban Water Cycles. So we are dealing with nature-based solutions, but we are trying to solve some of the barriers. May I have the next slide, please? And so the barriers are exactly the ones I have reported on the far right. And the main one, the principal one that since 2 decades we are dealing with almost every day. Every time we try to propose to a new client a solution by a nature-based solution, the main issue is, do we have enough space for implementing it? And so this project is more focused on what we are defining as enhanced nature-based solutions, which are meaning that we are putting a bit of energy for speeding up the processes normally, or we are putting some chemical activity inside in order to enhance the processes. So the ambition of the projects are that we want to deal with those 3 cycles, which are intercepting a central section, which is exactly the target we want to reach, which are the circular economy, and then all the, well, obviously the environment, which has to benefit about our work, and we have to interact with policies and the social aspects, which are the economic and the social ones. The project is including 20 partners. We are coming from 9 European countries. There are 3 international ones. There is quite an overlap, but not properly an overlap. I mean, we are collaborating together with the other project, which we presented immediately after this one, which is nice. And in both of them, the main target is just to reach a wider implementation of nature-based solutions everywhere in the world. So that's the main performance we want to obtain. What we are dealing with exactly is the competition for space, the high land footprint. The one common problem is the lack of awareness. So there is still not well-organized education in the university, in the institutes about this kind of topic. There is not a course on MBS, almost nowhere. There was a lack of guidelines. We are proposing a lot of them. In the last years, we have produced some. There are the bureaucratic burdens. There are some issues with the regulation frameworks, and which are very often overlapping. I mean, there is one regulation which is asking for one thing, and another regulation which is asking for the opposite, and we are just playing in the middle. So it's not so easy to live in these kind of conditions. And then the very last one is the one related to the different regulations in the world for reusing the water, which are really crazily distributed, let's say. I mean, in some countries, those are so stringent that it will never happen, that there will be water reuse. And even in continents like Europe, where we are trying to go in that direction, there are in the regulations some requirements that could really bring the cost per cubic meter of the treated effluent in so high that it will be out of the market. I mean, people, the private-public partnership will never take place if we are asking families to fund for thousands of euros realizations that will have a payback of 20 years, let's say. So those are the issues we are dealing with. Next slide, please. And yeah, click. You can click several times to fill up everything. Yep. We have to demonstrate this. So the main achievements we want to obtain is that some selected nature-based solutions which were already existing. So we decided in this project to not lose, as usual, 2-3 years of the 4 for implementing the case studies and then starting the monitoring that is normally reduced to the very last months of the project, and then you have to make the publication and so on. And so we decided to work with already existing ones. And so we selected the nicest ones we were having available, and since the very beginning we have started with the monitoring. And the idea is then to make use of the data we are obtaining, and we are already starting to obtain them, to show up what kind of business model can work properly for having an increased financial investment. So we have to force the investors to go in that direction. And obviously there is the international exchange of knowledge that is even very relevant in order to have a more uniform regulation body at international level. And so the second point is what we are working on, which is a sort of web tool which could give to the stakeholders the opportunity to select, by making use of this sort of decisional support system, the right nature-based solution for every kind of specific application. And for doing this, we will work even with GIS systems at city-wide scale. And obviously, in all this, a very relevant aspect is to include all the stakeholders, and so to include the social and economical aspects and actors. Next slide, please. So for doing all this, at the end, we will obtain, it's not coming, a lot of nice outputs. And so we are currently monitoring 7 enhanced nature treatment solutions. Those, we are defining them pilots, but they are all full-scale systems in reality. And the idea is to provide at the end some recommendations for applying these nature-based solutions to the reuse regulation, the European reuse regulation, to create the business models and to have a clear track of them, and then to produce this guidance for design, implementation, and operation and maintenance, especially on the long term. And yeah, the second point is exactly what I was talking about before. So the selection and design tool, which will be a web-based tool. And that's also what we are going with the planning platform. And focal point is that all this is including the concept of the modular MBS. We have seen already that we have to combine different techniques. That's what Gunther was saying before, in order to obtain the specific results case by case that we want to reach. Next one, please. They're quite close to the end. So how we can deal, one of the first aspects, I mean, this project can play on different kind of regulations. We can play also, we are dealing with this MBS that we are monitoring, even with the hydraulic aspects. And so we could play, for instance, with the flooding risk minimization. But the main interaction, for sure, is the one with the reuse of the water that we are treating and producing. And so how this project is contributing with the Water Reuse Directive is just to try to implement, by the adoption of nature-based solution, closed loops. And so the highest chances to obtain water saving, so just to save the resource, to recycle and reuse, and obviously to obtain also a better water quality. And through this, for instance, one example, the example that we are following directly is the one in Italy, where we are monitoring a combined sewer overflow, which is treated by a aerated wetland, which is then controlled by sensors, online sensors. There is a COD sensor, which could give the impulse every time that the quality of the water goes to be too bad, let's say. to turn on the aeration in order to get better performances, and to turn on the aeration only when it's needed, which is saving energy. I mean, so we are enhancing the treatment only when it's needed. And that's a kind of automation that we are inserting in the nature-based solutions, which is going far from being natural. Let's say we are including a lot of electronics, a lot of IT inside, but that's exactly the integration of nature-based solutions with technology for reaching exactly the kind of targets that the Water Use Directive is asking for. I mean, we have to make a lot of control. One of the main issues is that if we have to do all the analysis offline, let's say, so bring samples to the labs, the cost will be really, really high. And so that could put that new water out of the market. And so the idea is to go to online sensoring and mainly to find then the sensors that are the cheapest on the market for having a continuous data flow, which is determining good functioning and a guaranteed functioning of the nature-based solutions. Next slide, please. So what we are going to do is, well, let's say the interactions with this water reuse regulation are exactly having some negative aspects, which are exactly the one listed with the two hindrance point. So the monitoring is costly. The decentralized water reuse is normally not covered. I mean, our authorities are normally not controlling even the very well organized wastewater treatment plants, or they are randomly controlled, let's say. The resources are not so high. And when we are talking about decentralized solutions, what is happening in most of the cases is that they are often abandoned to themselves, and we just hope that they are working fine. There is very few monitoring done, and therefore we really need to go to a kind of monitoring that is less dependent by the human presence on the spot. And so we need really to have some online sensors which are helping us to do the job. And the other thing is just the bureaucratic one. When we ask for approvals for this kind of technologies to municipalities where the schematic way to proceed with authorization is going out of the schemes, and you have to spend time for explaining to the guys which have to release the authorization, the background that we have in order to, that is giving us the chance to ask for the permission. And that's one issue that we are often dealing with, and that can be solved just elaborating guidelines and giving proofs that what we are proposing is really working properly. As a support to the European water use regulation adoption is that there are some existing regulations. Some municipalities are accepting, are very prone to go in the direction of reusing the water, and it's just a matter of definition. If you ask for the discharge and then the reuse, they have to pass through some regulations, but you can try to bypass that, just going directly to a kind of application of your effluent without nominating the reuse, for instance. And you can get permits for a water reuse unit. And hopefully, by this, we will get a wider acceptance and easier acceptance of the technologies. That's all. I mean, we are just at the first year, so we still have 3 years of history to go far. Thank you. The discussion statements are for...
Yes, of course. Yes. Thank you. So, I mean, just year one, so it means there's a lot of things to be done and a lot of expectations as well. So now we go to the NICE project, and the NICE project is called, say, NICE and multi-source assistant projects, because they come from the same core proposal of Horizon 2020, and this called generated this two great projects. So I'm really happy to invite Diane Trevisan for telling us about the NICE project. Already the name itself, NICE, should be nice. Thank you.
Everybody does this joke that is a very nice project. Actually, it's very nice. So firstly, I'd like thanks for the invitation to talking about the NICE project. I'm very glad to show you more about this project. So the NICE project is a project about innovative and enhanced nature-based solutions for a sustainable urban water cycle. As Andrea mentioned, my name is Diane. I'm researching at CETIN. CETIN is a technological and research center in Spain. Next, please. Just to present my company, my center is a technological center that we work in many approaches related to research. And we have a department to research many technologies related to water treatment as nature-based solutions for water treatment. Next, please. So the NICE project is a project from Horizon 2020 as 48 months. We recently completed the first year of the project in May of this year. And we have the collaboration of a huge list of partners that has a lot of experience in nature-based solutions for water treatment. For example, INRAE, HYDROUSA, EcoBird, Aqualia, and another university institutions. And these partners has also experience in many aspects related to water circularity. So, as you know, nowadays we have a lot of problems with the climate changes effects and the increase of water pollution, mainly the issues related to emerging with the new emerging contaminants, and also the increasing depression to aquatic service. So the NICE project has a lot ambitious objectives. The project NICE was proposed to widen the availability of enhanced nature-based solutions to provide a more circular urban water cycle. Also, we try with a NICE project, we'll try to provide key knowledge to widen these solutions and related to design in the implementation of nature-based solutions. NICE solutions will make available more the reusable water for different purposes. And in addition, we expected to use the solutions to mitigate the pollution and other effects related to climate change. And we expected do these nature-based solutions as an important integral part of the urban landscape. Next. So what is the strategy of the project NICE? In summary, we will research informations and will review nature-based solutions, and we'll try to improve these solutions to treat water. Two, after applicate the best results in urban real labs in upscales of these solutions. So in ICE, we will be implementing green walls, vegetative rooftops, rain gardens, and construct wetlands to treat the wastewater, gray waters, storm water, CSO, and also to treat the waters from rivers. So basically, we have a lot of work to do in ICE. In total, we will have 11 work packages. As I mentioned, the strategy of the work of the NICE project is firstly review, improve these technologies to after apply in pilots. So the work package 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are packages that will try to improve and test many technologies. For example, in work package 3, we are testing stressful conditions in green walls to treat gray waters. And the work package 2, we are testing materials that are capable to remove emerging contaminants. And for example, the work package 1 is about the revision of no existing nature-based solutions from another places. And after, we expected to apply all these results from these work packages in the implementation of pilots in different places, which will be working in the work package 7. And of course, it's not enough do research and apply and upscale these pilots without the dissemination and without the participation of municipalities and the population. So also we have work packages to disseminate the information in all the activities from the project, and we have activities, public activities to the participation of the population and the several groups. Next. So here we have the several pilots that we expected to implement it. In total will be 11 urban real labs with more at least 18 nature-based solutions distributed in Europe, South America, Egypt. And these pilots will be implemented under different climatic conditions, water characteristics. And of course, we try to achieve, we'll try to implement pilots to help and to solve local problems. Next. So regarding the technical objectives and expected impacts from the project, we expect firstly improve these technologies for water treatment, mainly related to emerging contaminant removal. So in the phases of the step of the research, we expected to improve these systems to remove the emerging contaminants. For example, we expect to increase 75% of removal of emerging contaminants from different kinds of waters. We expect to improve the quality of urban water bodies, reduce the pressure on existing freshwater resources, increase the water availability for reuse. For example, in total, in the NICE project, we will produce more than 15,000 cubic meters per year of water for reuse. In addition, we expect that these technologies implemented in NICE will mitigate the diffuse pollution associated to stormwaters in CSO. And we expect that this project will contribute to adaptation and to the resilience of the cities to climate change's effects. Next. So, thinking in future is not only important to implement these pilots and solve and support local problems, but is important also support futures implementations. So in NICE, we also will thinking in develop material to future implementations into widen this kind of technologies. So we expected with these activities increase the investments into nature water treatment solutions, increase the business opportunities with the creation of green jobs, and to reach nature-based solutions with lower cost. And in conclusion, try to contribute to the water circularity. Next. So, as you know, the NICE project is a younger project. We are still working in the step of researching. We'll implement the pilots in the next year. So it's difficult to discuss the main changes or challenges of this project. So I decided to put some I think, important points that we should discuss about the main gaps and the barriers that are related to nature-based solutions implementation. So I put some topics from different papers that discuss about the main challenges. So which are the drivers and the barriers for nature-based solutions? Maybe the inadequate regulations, or the problems of knowledge sharing, or the limited land or time availability. So are topics that should be discussed in this event. Next. So for any information about the NICE project, we have the website, and during the conference, we have the participation in the presentations of a lot of partners. For example, we have a poster from Carlos that you can see after. And for any doubts and any questions, you can contact me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks a lot. We are a bit behind the schedule, and now we have the last presentation for this first session of Water Project Europe. Before the coffee break, I know that all you need a coffee. Now is the time of Attilio Toscano from University of Bologna presenting a PRIMA supported project, which is fit for use. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Thanks to give me the opportunity to present Fit for Reuse. I will try to save time for the coffee break. So please, next slide, please. Fit for Reuse is a different kind of project with respect to the other we have seen today, because several reasons. It's funded within the Horizon 2020 framework, but through a research program made of Prima Foundation. And this project is a small research and innovation project, is a real project, and is devoted, could we have the title, please? Is devoted not directly only to natural-based solution, but on wastewater reuse in a specific context. The specific context is the agricultural sector in the Mediterranean basin. So another difference between Fit for Use and the other project is we deal with natural-based solution in the agricultural context and for the agricultural context related to wastewater reuse. We wait for, okay, stop, it's good. Okay, I will tell you later the title because I don't remember the exact title, but the acronym is Fit for Reuse. Okay, safe and sustainable agricultural water supply through the use of non-conventional water resources in the Mediterranean region. So the project is a small project, 2 million budget related to the Mediterranean area, 7 partners from 9 Mediterranean countries. And it is at the last steps because we closed the project by the end of this year. And the project is organized in 3 main pillars. The first is devoted to the treatment development, innovative treatment development for produce non-conventional water able to be used for irrigation in agriculture. And this is the pillars where we have developed a solution related to natural-based solutions for the treatment. But we have also pillars on the application of treated wastewater in agriculture. So developing irrigation systems and test and research on the application of the treated wastewater by natural-based solution. And we have also third pillars related to the increase of the public acceptance of the use of treated wastewater in agriculture. Please, next slide. And you will see during this conference a couple of presentations related with the results of this project. So we will try to go on. But the idea is that this project was done at pilot scale, not full scale. It's a small research and innovation project. So we developed a lot of pilot systems in several countries. We also developed a very nice simulation platforms able to simulate all the steps we developed for the treatment solution. We have also the application of treated wastewater. We produced an holistic assessment. It's not so easy because we deal with not only the European regulation on wastewater reuse, but also with the regulation. We did a policy for the site in all the countries of the Mediterranean, not only from European countries. And we also developed a methodology to perform the water reuse risk assessment, also needed for the new European regulation. And we have a multi-stakeholder platform. Please, Anka, could you go on? Okay, you can see here the different pilot only related to natural-based solutions. So we have pilot in Italy, we have pilot in Greece, we have pilot in Tunisia, and we have again pilot in Italy with a particular aspect. We tried to have a platform where natural-based solutions were combined with other solutions to reach different classes for wastewater reuse, but not only classes related to European regulations, but also in a Mediterranean context. So this is the main difference. Please, Anka, go on. So the results, I will skip this slide because we will have some data and results from the pilot scale plant in Italy, in Granarolo dell'Emilia, close to Bologna. And this is the pilot approach in Tunisia. Please go on, Anka. And this is the combined platform we built. in Imola, close to Bologna, where we combined horizontal and vertical flow constructed wetland, aerated and non-aerated, with WASP reactors, with anaerobic membrane, with gravity filters, and with UV lamp, and several combinations of these aspects to achieve the results we want to achieve for the reuse. Please go on, Anka. And I totally skipped the result, but I would like only to say that with different combination of this treatment, we were able to achieve even class A, so the highest class to be used for all kind of crops and for all kind of irrigation methods for agriculture. Please go on. And this is a pilot in Greece, so a bioelectrified constructed wetland performed by CIMOS, because all of us we appear in different projects, of course, and we will be able also to recover energy from these systems. Please, Anka. And also treating in the right way wastewater. Please, Anka, go on. There you will see the result. And as a final statement, from our point of view, from our result, natural-based wastewater reuse for us is a huge topic, very important in the Mediterranean area, most of all during the under the climate change scenarios. In Italy, for example, this year we had areas in the northern area that never were being affected by drought in the past years, but this year was really terrible, and having a huge amount of treated wastewater, non-conventional water, regardless to climate change, could change the impact of drought in Italy. And natural-based solution is correctly used, could be for sure a very promising solution and effective solution to go towards wastewater reuse. And of course, we test different substrate, different aeration, and also recovering of energy production. The main lack, the main problem is the achievement of the pathogen removal only with natural-based solution. Of course, the combination of other aspects, other treatment chain with natural-based solution could lead to very excellent results. Please go on. Just the last slide to promote our main event of the project, named Water Reuse Day. We are at the final stage of the project. We have the final event, that is the third Water Reuse Day, that will be held in Bologna, but it is an hybrid event. So if you go in our website and social, you will find the possibility to register to this event also from remote. The last slide, please. And here you will see all the social, the website, and I would like to thank again Jamie for hosting us, Andrea, and Water Europe and CIMOS. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Antonio. Thank you. Thank you also for this appointment in November. That sounds really very much interesting. Now I think that we all need a coffee and a coffee break. We are a bit behind the schedule, so we are going to meet once again at 4 p.m. here. Also because we have, the other block of presentations from the different stakeholders, which are not project related, but they are really from cities, academia. We have different really perspectives about natural-based solutions and wetlands. So let's be back at 4 p.m. Enjoy the coffee and get back your energy that you need. Thank you. See you. And sorry, online speakers and online attendees, please, do not disconnect, remain online, and we catch up once again at 4 p.m. sharp. Thank you.
Mais là, on est pas branché, hein. Si, si. Alors, par contre, le câble, il ressemble mieux. Il n'est pas assez long. Et assis.
Tout.
On n'a pas un peu de scotch, un machin comme ça. Voilà. On est sûr que ça marche pas. Parce que normalement, il prend et il renvoie.
Everybody needs to start moving their way to the next sessions. This is your
Yes.
Hi, Marco. Do you hear me? But you are muted. Let's see.
Now I think you
Yes,
can hear me.
it's
Good.
perfect. It's perfect. It's Anka here.
Yeah, buonasera.
Bună seara.
No,
Bună ziua. Ziua.
Bună ziua.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you
I
managed to come from Romania last night?
This morning at 6 o'clock.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a direct flight from Bucharest to Lyon?
Yes, it was direct, 3 hours, but then I had a train to take a train.
Ah, okay.
The city. It's my first time in Lyon, and I came alone, so I'm not a good self-traveler.
Okay, and you stay a few days, or you will fly back?
No,
soon,
tomorrow I go back to Brussels. In Brussels, okay. I am based in Brussels.
Ah, you are based in Brussels.
Yeah,
okay, good. Yeah, good.
But sometimes we travel we go home and work.
I see.
Home.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm currently working from Croatia, where I stay in my parents' holiday house. It's also enjoyable to work from outside the office sometimes. Yeah.
Super. Let's
Good.
see how I can put you. I know it takes the webcam. I'm trying to see how to put you first.
But I'm not the first speaker this afternoon.
You're not, but I'm trying the same. Yeah.
Okay, good.
But it doesn't work. I see.
Hello, everybody at the back of the room. Please come and sit down if you want to participate in the second half of the Water Projects Europe events. We are going to be starting now. Poster people, Carlos, Damash. We're starting. Gunther. Poster shame. Jacques, Fabio. We're starting. Ricardo, Alex. No? We're going to start now.
Yeah, we start the second session of the Project Europe. So we start the new session, the second session of Water Project Europe, with many thanks to the previous speakers. And now the first speaker of the next session will be online. Is Cinzia Davoli from the Metropolitan City of Milan. Cinzia, can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me? I'm not Cinzia, as you can see.
Hello, wait a second, because we don't hear you in the room.
Okay.
So give us 1 minute.
Yes.
We must hear her in the room. Not only, I hear her online, but not in the room. Do I do what? We hear the speaker only online, not in the room. Yes.
We cannot hear in the space.
She can speak.
Hi.
Francesca, can you try to speak?
Now we
please?
can.
Hi. Can
Now
you
we
hear
can.
me?
Yes, now we
Yes.
can hear you. So,
Okay.
Francesca Frappa from Metropolitan City of Milan, welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
So this is, I mean, the second session of this Water Project Europe is dedicated to the different perspectives of different actors. I can also see Marco from European Investment Bank. Thank you so much for being with us online as well. And we start with the Metropolitan City of Milan, and this is, I mean, the city perspective on nano-based solutions and wetlands. So challenges, perspectives, possible solutions, what is, I mean, in the pipeline. So the room is yours. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. So I'm going to try to share my screen. So here, okay. Can you see the screen? I don't hear you if it's okay, if you see everything.
It's okay. It's good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so thank you. Good afternoon. And so, yes, I'm Francesca Framba and I work for the Metropolitan City of Milan. And today I'm going to illustrate the Metropolitan City Sponge, which is both a territorial strategy and a project. So the Metropolitan City of Milan, it's a vast territory that includes 133 municipalities with a high population density and also a high urbanization density. As you can see, the build-up areas reach the 31% of the territory. So in recent years, it has been noticed that this type of conformation, together with climate change, has generated two main issues: water runoff and the increase of urban heat islands, and more recently, other problems have been added, like this summer, as someone said before, such as drought. So through the construction of the Metropolitan Urban Agenda for Sustainable Development that we have here in the Metropolitan City, among the Metropolitan City policies has been set what is called the resilient trajectory. This trajectory aims to limit the disastrous effects of extreme climate events. So effects that not only are environmental, but also social and economic. Within this trajectory, the Sponge Metropolitan City strategy has been set. The vision is a metropolitan territory as an area capable of upgrading the ecosystem of the urbanized territory through soil permeabilization and storm water management, as well increasing the circularity of the water cycle. Is therefore a long-term strategy, as you saw, that has been matured since 2016, as you can see here. Where we went through a knowledge journey undertaken by the Metropolitan City, and underlining this path are two key elements: the political sensitivity towards these problems and the commitment of the technicians since the publication of the 2030 agenda. So without these two elements, for sure, we would never have gotten to where we are today, so to the Sponge Metropolitan City project. The path has seen the entity, the metropolitan city, engaged in various national, local, and European projects. You can see from this timeline. And this type of activity was not included in the normal activities of the institutions, but it was decided to take this route anyway to really understand the problems and to find answers. So we are currently engaged in 2 projects, multi-source and water for all, that are both really important to us. And all of this has led up to the Metropolitan City Sponge project, thanks also to the contribution of extraordinary funds coming from Next Generation EU. So what has been done since 2016? There has been an in-depth study of climate change adaptation with a focus on MBS, nature-based solutions, and trying to understand their potential. Then a study of the territory in light of this type of knowledge, and going to highlighting the problems and solution, even going so far as to implement some of them with the Life Metro Adapt project. Finally, tools were developed to serve land use planning for municipalities. So here it's the Metropolitan City project, and I'm going to explain in details. So what has made this project possible? In addition on what I said before, so the strategy, the knowledge that we accomplished during this period of project and study, also we had to really create a territorial network. And sorry. And so this has led to this project that, as you can see, it's formed by 90 intervention of mitigation intervention in public areas and in 32 municipalities in the metropolitan area. You can see in the right side of the slide all the types of implementation that we are going to construct. And also you can find some numbers of the impact of the project. Now I wanted to explain the Metropolitan City governance, or the Metropolitan City Sponge City project governance, so the governance of the project, that, as you can see, it's articulated in some actors. So for sure, Europe, that everything it's generated from the Next Generation EU, so the funds, and these funds given to the countries and in Italy are managed also by the Ministry of Internal Affairs, which has called for funds with a decree law dedicated to the metropolitan cities. So between the Ministry of Internal Affairs and the Metropolitan City of Milan, there is currently an act of obligation that is a contract, a public law contract between administrations. So it's an agreement. This is also the case of the type of obligation that it's between the municipality and the Metropolitan City of Milan and the water utility, the integrated water service provider, CAP. which the municipality disagreement then adhered on this agreement by a political act and later by subscription. The last aspect I wanted to talk to you about is the roles and the specific tasks of all the actors. So the ministry provides the funds and gives the rules. The Metropolitan City of Milan, it's the beneficiary and has to define the strategy, take the responsibility for the results, but also monitor the impact and give the report on technical and economic sides. The water utility, it's the implementing actor that have already done the preliminary design and has to do the executive design and has to after implement all the interventions. And the territorial beneficiaries that are the municipalities have contributed to co-design the intervention, give the area for implement this type of intervention, and they make the areas available and also have to manage the products afterwards. So the project has to end in March 2026, and this is what we thought was interesting to share with you. The last slide, I just wanted to point out some elements for the discussion later. And the first one, it's how can we involve the private sector in the strategy of the Metropolitan Sponge City? Because as I said before, the Metropolitan Sponge City is not just a project that I already talked to you about, but it's also a long-term strategy for the territory. So we want to carry on with other interventions beside the 90 that I showed you before. And also connected to that, how to report and communicate the benefits, all kinds of benefits that this project brings. So with that, I have concluded my presentation, and I thank you for your attention.
Many thanks, Francesca. Thank you so much. It was interesting because, I mean, we had this model, it's a proven model, and the rules as well that are extremely interesting for applying and replicating, I mean, this system also in a water-oriented labs environment. Now, from the municipality, we go to utility. So how comes, I mean, how the utility perceive the problem of implementing nature-based solutions? How, let's have, I mean, the real experience from a Belgian utility, which is Aquafin, and which is also a member of all the Europe. It's not, it's an important detail. So I invite Birgit Bock to take the stage and speak about her experience in Aquafin about MBS. Thank you.
This? Yeah? That one? Two? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's me. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the introduction, Andrea. Thank you for inviting us to speak here today. as Andrea mentioned, I am Birgitte Bok. I work at the R&D department at Aquafin, a Flanders wastewater utility. You can go to the next slide, thank you. Maybe for the people who don't know what we do at Aquafin, as I said, we are a wastewater utility. We operate about 300 wastewater treatment plants, a little under 2,000 pumping stations and buffer basins, more than 6,600 kilometers of sewer. And we do this together with 1,200 employees. Of course, today we are here to speak about nature-based solutions and wetlands. And you can go to the next slide. Thank you. Before the years 2000, we were specifically focusing on wastewater treatment. We had a great, we had to do a lot of work to have a better treatment of wastewater. But since the beginning of the years 2000, we started to separate rainwater from stormwater. This was obliged by legislation. And therefore, in the years 2013, we changed our vision because we saw that just putting stormwater underground and letting it flow to the river is just not good enough. So we changed our vision to clean water courses, which is of course related to wastewater purification, but also an environment in harmony with water. And this specifically tells us to do more with stormwater than just send it to the rivers. And the picture that you can see here is a good perspective on that. So in the past, we just put a double sewer underneath the pavement and just let it run. But the whole area was concrete or asphalt. And then now we try to be more conscious about stormwater management, to really keep water above ground and to do something extra with it. So I really liked the keynote this morning because he said we have to go for multifunctionality in our systems. So that's really something that we are aiming for, to bring more than just water management into our project. Yes, thank you. And a very nice example of this is the first garden street in Antwerp. This is something that we helped design. This street is a street in the center of Antwerp, very densely populated street. And here we added a lot of, you can see a lot of small rain gardens, all permeous pavement. All the rainwater infiltrates here in the ground, and we as R&D department are doing some measurements as well to see if there's an overflow to the combined system at the end of the pipe. But up to now, we haven't had any overflow, so everything just infiltrates. There's some green walls, so a lot of nature-based solutions. They also installed a rainwater well underneath with a pump so that the citizens can pump water if necessary in dry spells. Thank you. We also really want to inspire governments and citizens. We felt that my colleagues really needed a tool to help convince mayors, but also inhabitants of the value of nature-based solutions, but also what does it look like? Can you show some examples, some projects that are close by that we can go have a look at this, for example? That's why we built a website. It's called Blauw-Groen Vlaanderen in Flemish, of course. And there we collect a lot of different projects that have a certain ambition level, but we also added all the different NBS, for example, that you can do with different filters so that you can filter, well, I'm in a clay ground, so I cannot infiltrate, and then it just shows the different measures that you can take. So this the picture that is above, I don't have a pointer, is also used in the climate adaptation plan in Flanders now. So it really got picked up, the website, and it's very nice to see. Thank you. Something else that we are doing is something that we really felt was necessary, is the connection between blue and green. So we are all water engineers at Aquafin. We all have a very strong engineering background. And we really focused on the engineering point of view. And then together with some colleagues, I did a course, we are 6 of us, I did a course on ecological landscape design to get more of an insight into the green aspects of, for example, MBS biodiversity. So we really felt a lack in knowledge there. Now we know that we don't know anything about biology, ecology. So, but at least we know we don't know anything, so we have to ask someone else. So we really want to form multidisciplinary teams to get the most out of our projects. And something we did together with the colleagues is change the guidelines for infiltration basins. So infiltration basins used to be just a hole in the ground with very steep walls. So when a frog falls in, he cannot get out. A lot of frogs died, unfortunately. But now we implemented different guidelines that you have to have flatter slopes, that you need to install not just a flat ground, but also some puddles so that water can really stand still and form a different ecological system. And by that, also by teaching our other engineering project managers how to do this and what to aim for, we try to improve ecosystem services in our projects, which is very necessary, of course. So we have 7 green ambassadors now at Aquafin. And of course, we have an R&D department where I'm doing everything rainwater related. These are 2 projects of mine, 2 demo cases that are also included in the new Stop Up project. It's a Stop UP, Stop Urban Pollution, a new Horizon project that started just in September. I will present the first one, the left one, on Thursday. So I will not spoil everything. If you want to know more about it, just come have a listen. The other picture is about a shell buffer. There we use shells, normal shells out of the sea, to purify rainwater, to reuse the water in a community garden, but also to play with the water. And of course, we also do grey water reuse. That's where we implement wetlands, for example. But this is a different colleague whose expertise is this. Yes, thank you. So of course we face a lot of challenges. A lot of the challenges I already heard from different speakers. Space is definitely something that we all cope with. Flanders is a very densely populated area, so space is always an issue. The mobile shift should help with it, but still it will always be an issue. Of course, a necessary mind shift is also on hand from municipalities who are still afraid to let water be seen. We've spent decades putting water on the ground, just letting it, covering it up. But now we want to bring it back to the surface, and that scares some people, also citizens, but also for the engineers. I heard it before in some different lectures. Also for engineers, nature is not an exact science. So we are used to designing sewer pipes. They have to be this big. We put them underground, and normally if we made the right calculation, it should work. But nature is not like that. It's more complex. Sometimes it grows, sometimes it doesn't. So we have to learn to cope with this complexity. Also, what we see is if we work together, the project just gets stronger. So I'm really a fan of multidisciplinary teams. We really bring added value to a project, but also involving all stakeholders really brings up the project and can bring out a lot more opportunities than you should think of in the first second. Another thing that is definitely a challenge is a scattered budget. If we bring nature-based solutions into the equation, then we do not only have budgets for the sewer, but we can also use budgets that are foreseen for biodiversity reasons, for example, but often this is a different department or another legislation. So we should really try to bring them together to have a bigger budget and do more. And then something that was already mentioned by Fabio, I think, is that the maintenance and long-term effects of nature-based solutions are not all very well known, or they are known but not with utilities, for example. And that's something that we see that is a very big issue for the operators, for example. And these are also my discussion statements. So how can we convince municipalities to go with nature-based solutions? How can we work together and maximize all our projects? And how can we make nature-based solutions or wetlands more comfortable for operations to manage and to maintain? I think I'm at the end of my presentation. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you next in the discussion.
Thank you very much, Birgit. Thanks, thank you. Thank you so much. This is better, yes. Well, now we go back online, and we have in the point of view, let's say once, I mean, we are preparing this model project Europe with Marco Belos from European Investment Bank. So I mean, to speak about the point of view of the investors, and then he told me, well, not really investors, but financiers, right?
Indeed, yeah.
So very much welcome. I mean, we are pleased, I mean, to have you this afternoon about the Project Europe, and I give you the floor for giving the perception of financiers on nature-based solutions for the water sector. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good. Thanks. Thanks a lot, Andrea. Can you please share my presentation? Good. Yeah. Thank you very much. So good afternoon to all of you. I'm joining online. I cannot be with you this afternoon. I will talk about the EIB's perspective as one of the largest financiers in the water sector on nature-based solutions. The next slide, please. So you might know the European Investment Bank. We are the EU, the bank of the European Union. So our members, the member states are our shareholders. And we have adopted some years ago the climate strategy. We call ourselves the climate bank. So we are the largest provider of financing, climate financing, also water sector financing. And we are really committed to lead the financing community in the aim to achieve the climate targets, climate resilient growth. And our target was published 2 years ago in our Climate Bank roadmap to have at least 50% of our overall activity related to climate action and environmental sustainability. And in 2021, we actually achieved already 51%. Out of the 60-70 billion, we had 27.6 billion related to climate change and environmental sustainability. I do not go in detail in our documents, the Climate Bank roadmap or the adaptation plan, but basically, as you can imagine, we provide long-term financing, and we want to demonstrate that every project we finance has a climate action component, either for adaptation or for mitigation. And that's very important. The next slide, please. And the EIB, as the EU bank, is of course also committed to implement the EU Green Deal. So we updated our environmental and social standards earlier this year, and we put them together in an environmental and social framework. I do the same for the climate documents. I do not go into the detail. But basically, our focus is to have a sustainable and inclusive growth and to achieve a just and fair transition to the green economy, to a resilient economy, low carbon and environmentally sound, of course. Next slide, please. Now let's go on the topic of nature-based solutions. On this topic, I see that we first of all have a problem of definition. If you look at the definition from the European Commission, which says solutions that are inspired and supported by cost-effective, simultaneously provide environmental, social, and so on and on. I will not read it for you. This is quite different from the definition as it was adopted by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, which was published in 2018. Actually, the definitions are very similar, but what is the important point about the IUCN that they have published 2 years ago a global standard, and these definitions come with 8 criteria, very detailed criteria, and you have self-assessment tools, Excel sheets, and so on, where you can actually check for every project whether the 8 criteria are met. And that's something which is currently missing in the European Commission definition of nature-based solutions, and which I personally appreciate a lot because it gives guidance. The problem is that the IUCN standard so far has been accepted or adopted or endorsed only by the Nordic countries, the cooperation agencies of Norway, Sweden, and Finland, by the French Cooperation Agency, Agence Française de Développement, and some others outside Europe. So that's first a problem of definition, I would say, and of acceptance of a global standard, because we see this as a financier very often. For example, when we talk about climate adaptation, when we co-finance projects, it's very important to have a common standard. And very often we see discrepancies. What we call an adaptation project, for example, the World Bank or the EBRD or the African Development Bank, do not necessarily also call an adaptation project, and vice versa. So that's why we, as a financier, we really look forward to have a kind of universally accepted standard. And then, as a matter of fact, which is quite obvious also from the previous presentations, nature-based solutions currently attract only a very tiny part of financing, be it for global climate funding or for other purposes. Next slide, please. So I will talk now about case studies. Our flagship project when it comes to nature-based solution is the EMSHA project in Germany, which is in the Ruhr area. It's Europe's largest river restoration project with an investment amount above 5 billion, of which roughly 1/3 has been financed by the EIB in the past 15 years. The project started 30 years ago in 1991. And you can see it's really huge. It's the restoration of 350 kilometers of rivers and creeks. And you can see on the screen, unfortunately, I cannot use the cursor because I use my iPhone because of connection problems. But the blue line on the left is the Rhine River. And you see the EMSHA basin, which was heavily impacted by industrialization in the 19th century. There was lots of coal mining. And because of that, they had so many settlements that it was impossible to build underground sewers. So basically, they decided to have all the sewerage up above ground. So all the rivers and creeks became open sewers. The concept developed 30 years ago means that all the wastewater is carried to 4 big wastewater treatment plants. It's these egg-shaped images on the picture. And huge pumping stations pump the water there, and above ground, all the rivers shall be restored. Next slide, please. So the project is quite spectacular because it's a huge project. It's a long project. So they have 30 years of experience now. You see a symbolic picture on the left. On the right side of the photograph, you see the canals, or the channels as they were, straight, built in the 1930s, 50s, and 60s, concrete, and so on. And on the left, you see the more natural river, which shall be the normal situation after the project. What is really spectacular is the growth in biodiversity. They have also a quite robust monitoring program, as you can imagine, to count all these species and follow all this in all these creeks and rivers. And the EMSHA Genossenschaft is a cooperative. It's a cooperative which gets its revenue from the participation of all the industrial operators and the mines, of course, in the area. The membership is mandatory, so they have quite a nice budget, I guess, for monitoring. Next slide, please. So here we have, I put together some lessons learned from these 30 years of river restoration, and that's really interesting. And it shows also the limits of nature-based solutions. So the EMSHA will, of course, never become again a natural river, yeah? Because there's been so much infrastructure built in the past 150 years, bridges and roads and railway lines. But the improvements are still impressive. What they want to achieve is this, what they call the stepstone approach. That means they want to connect these different biotopes and ecosystems, and they see that the fish migrate from one place to the others, the birds fly from one place to the other, and so on, so that they have these interconnections. What they also saw is that nature-based solutions take a lot of time, and you need to have this monitoring for 10 years or more, because some species arrive, some species leave after a few years, and so on and so forth. So it's still a lot of things which need to be understood. And that's a very good example, I think, of how this learning can take place. They did a very extensive stakeholder consultation in the past 30 years. All the projects were done with a lot of stakeholders, consultation. Of course, the population was heavily involved, and they're very proud of not having a single NGO complaint in 30 years. Good, then I come to the next case study, number 2, please. This is a project in France. After 5 billion investment, here we have only 5 million investment, so 1,000 times smaller. And you might wonder how we do this. Yes, EIB does usually the big projects, but we also do sometimes the small ones. This one is with Eau de Paris, so the Paris City Water Authority. And they had a big project for an investment plan over the next years, 2021 to 2025. And we saw that there were several nature-based solutions components in there. So we decided to make this a separate project under the NCFF, the Natural Capital Financing Facility, which is an EU instrument handled by the EIB. And so we took this instrument, which allows Eau de Paris to benefit from technical assistance, which has started this summer, to monitor basically how this nature-based solutions project will go forward, and help them also with visibility, communications aspect, geographical information system, and so on. So for us, this is something which has just started, and we are very curious to see what will be the results. The measures of the project are classical projects: preservation of wetlands, the protection against nitrates through planting of trees and bushes in areas around the wells, then river restoration, and so on and so forth. And yeah, I think that's it. Next slide, please. I thank you. Oh, sorry, no, there's some discussion statements I would like to mention. The earlier mentioned point already, that we still have no commonly shared definition of nature-based solutions or standard. And my question is, what can we do to change this? And of course, for us, an important question is, how can we determine and take into account the economic value of nature? When we finance such projects, we typically do an economic calculation. And my colleagues, the economists, they refer to, for example, the flood protection component or the wastewater treatment component of the nature-based solutions. But it's very hard to put an economic value on biodiversity, and that's the thing which I see also in the literature is not easy. So that's for our discussion for later. I thank you for your attention and look forward to the panel discussion.
Thank you very much, Marco. Thanks for the insight, and the last, the question for discussion also are interesting, and there will be a lot of interest in the panel, about this. Now, this is the last presentation of today before the panel discussion, which is, it's about connecting stakeholders. It's about having the capacity of include the stakeholder in the process. In a process, when we speak about MBS, that last per year. So there is the need of a common consensus. There is a need for involving all the parties and the actors on the territory. To this end, I'd like to invite Carmen Machi-Castagnier from ICLEI, which will tell us, I mean, how about the experience that she can bring up from two projects that we already have seen today. Please, I mean, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Thanks also for inviting me to contribute to this very important session. And I will start by offering to you a very brief overview of how multi-source and NICE are connecting. Next slide, please. And not to overlap with has already been said by Fabio and Diane. So as you saw previously, both projects are aiming at the same goal, which is testing the capacity performance of MBS as enhanced natural treatment solutions for a sustainable urban water cycle. They are doing this by assessing different pilots for the case of multi-source or urban real labs for the case of NICE, and to prove their performance under different weather conditions. But this is a bit more complex because it's involving also to some extent to engage with the proper stakeholders and to see how we can better disseminate all this knowledge beyond the project. Next slide, please. So for the case of multi-source, some stakeholder engagement activities has been designed and we are on the process of developing them. The first of all has been to do a stakeholder mapping exercise, which has already been realized by all the multi-source projects, multi-source pilots, sorry. And in that exercise, they were able to map which are the relevant, but also critical actors to engage with. The next was to design a co-design stakeholder engagement framework. And via this framework, we are assessing three nurturing questions: the why, the who, and the how we will engage with. So it means that we have to make very clear for us the purpose of the engagement, first of all, and then the people we want to engage with and the format, because it's going to be very different if we do it through a webinar or if we have an informal meeting. So this is something that we need to think about for the case of the different pilots. And as part of this process, then we have to develop this on a timeline and to see it not only for the entire life of the project, which is until the end of it, but also for the short-term perspective. So the idea is that all our partners, pilots, will document on this roadmap their intentions of engaging with the different stakeholders and the timing they want to do so, and the format. So next, please. We have also been doing some dissemination, knowledge exchange, and stakeholder engagement in NICE, but in a different way. For example, we started an NICE Cities panel, which aims to connect our NICE urban real labs and fellow sites with also cities that are beyond the project. And this enables to also listen to cities in Europe from very different weather and cultural contexts, which needs they have for facing water challenges. So after having some virtual events, in these interactive sessions that we designed within these virtual events, we were documenting the challenges that the cities were describing to our partners. And then we identified the key expert inputs that our partners could provide for them. And with this, we could align all together to think about capacity building. And it was nice that also multi-source partners were in this process. Some of them, at least, they were engaged in the virtual events. And so maybe we can also design this capacity building collectively. Next slide, please. So now we already had our first capacity webinar the last week. And there we had the valuable input from the team. Diana was presenting, but also the Technological University of Gansk and Lissot. And just for you to know, these webinars are driven through the Urban by Nature program. This is a program that wants to enhance the dissemination of NBS, and it's fundamented on 7 steps process. So we start with joining and exploring, then we prioritize, we commit and plan, we implement, we monitor, and we want to upscale our solutions. So the first webinar was trying to cover knowledge gaps on the 2 first steps, joining and exploring. And for the next ones, we want to design these webinars to continue on these 7 steps. And multi-source partners would be the most welcome also if they want to present in any of those series. Next, please. Interesting asset of multi-source, coming back now to multi-source, is that we also have an international advisory board, which is composed by people that has different and complementary professional expert backgrounds, and this will enrich a lot the project because they can contribute from different angles to enrich them with their unique and critical point of view and technical insights the progress of the activities. So ICLEI, together with INRAE, is planning to engage with them in different periods of the project and incorporate their support in analyzing the work packages reports and the key outputs. And finally, also to have them in-person meeting where they can also interact directly with the rest. And we're very glad that one of them is here, Catherine Cross, and she's one of our keynote speakers. Next slide. And we also account for 3 international partners, and 2 of them are also here from Brazil and the United States. The United States is a project partner, the Montana State University, who is also piloting, and they are evaluating the performance under Montana's extreme cold weather for a high strength wastewater. And for the case of Brazil, the Federal University of Santa Catarina is also analyzing the development of decentralized wastewater treatment in small sprout urban areas that you can find in this state. So they are both benefiting our project partners and the international partners by understanding both contexts. Also, INRAE was participating recently in a workshop that was developed in Brazil. And finally, Vietnam is also one of our international partners, the Vietnam National University Ho Chi Minh City. And they are engaging the project with the aim to support the NBS landscape in Ho Chi Minh and to start identifying some relevant local stakeholders. We already started with them identifying those groups. ICLEI has been interactive with Ho Chi Minh international partners, and the idea is to disseminate those concepts in their local context, but also multi-source to understand such a different cultural and social asset and the completely different weather conditions that can make more complicated to design for this in this case. So this is my last slide. I just want to leave here 3 statements, and you can disagree or agree or just agree in a certain level, but I hope this will fit into our panel discussion. So the first is that the operationalization of intersectorial vision in the coordination and implementation of actions to jointly design integrated solutions is crucial. And we need to work with the stakeholders from different administrative levels decision-making departments for the replication and this upscaling. The second is that either NICE or multi-source will undergo on reviewing the current water policy framework. And as Fabio was mentioning before, this can restrict a lot developing urban NBS. So we should discuss with our stakeholders when engaging them the possible amendments in existing regulations, such as NBS to be contemplated in new developments, streets or public reconstructed spaces, or existing retrofitted treatment facilities. And last, that past experiences has proven that generally NBS designs are extremely benefited when we are involving non-technical local actors, such as citizens and communities in participatory planning via informative campaigns, local workshops, or panel discussions. So this should support to increase the quality of the final product and its social acceptance. Thus, that a stakeholder engagement format should account for this. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Don't go away, because now we start the panel discussion. So you can already sit, over there. And I would like to ask the other speakers also to join Carmen on here. I think that we missed some panel discussion. Somebody in the panel. Thank you.
Okay, I will not go by the webcam. Okay.
We need.
Not 100% sure. Oh, yeah, it's just we need.
Okay. So, Jamie, it is even difficult to start because we have so many questions. But what I saw is that there is a common understanding on the matter that there are problems in the legislation. There are problems in financing MBS. There are problems in the development of MBS or constructed wetlands. In the long run, because it's something that requires really a long time. And then there are the benefits and the question marks about how to involve the citizens. Let's say to have everybody sitting around the same table and speaking about the same problem and having a common view on how to address the challenge of the water management, not only in the urban areas, but today we are speaking about urban areas. We would like to start. Legislation, Xavier.
Just to be provocative, I'm not sure we are able to have all of them around the table, and moreover to have a common view and a common answer. We have to recognize that we will have different stakeholders. The way we can reach them, some of them very easily, some of them it would be super difficult. And we have to recognize these stakeholders will have different views. They will expect different things when we discuss about NBS. And so what is at stake is to reinvent some governance systems to deal with this, and not to sell NBS as, okay, it will be the solution for all. No. So we will need discussions, information, and then choices. And so governance system is super important. And it's not a common vision, it's a common background, it's information flux, etc. At some stage, we will have the trade-offs in front of us, I think.
Thank you, Andrea. I would like to return to the point you mentioned regarding legislation. I think it's also highlighted in the several projects, also this morning, that there are gaps in the legislation that many times do not favor nature-based solutions. I agree that NBS cannot be, a solution per se for everything, but many times these gaps are making difficult the integration of green with gray infrastructure. And it's easier for the water utility to go for a mainstream water technology. It's easier for the constructor to go for mainstream technology. And also these gaps, for example, gray water is not regulated in Greece, and it's not, and in Europe also, the water regulation, minimum standard, gray water is absent. And also it only addresses agriculture, doesn't address urban. Also it talks about Class A, unrestricted irrigation, where it specifies the mainstream biological treatment plus filtration. But if you consider the wetlands as the mainstream, then many times the water utilities are asking for another step of filtration. That's what the problem we encounter. I mean, there are issues, and we still have a long way to go, I think.
May I just add on what Simos just said, and I would like to ask Birgit, because we have a utility here with us. You mentioned that utilities are somehow a little bit reluctant to go to work on more nature-based solutions, because that's mainly also involving more decentralized solutions, and that means at the end more work for the utility, more systems to take care of, more. So how do you see this in Aquafin? It seems you're a little bit ahead of other utilities.
I wouldn't say we're ahead because in wastewater treatment, we definitely do not favor, for example, wetlands. We've had some bad experience with wetlands in the past, probably because they were not designed correctly or not built correctly. And also now we have these big wastewater treatment plants, activated sludge plants that are working, they are working fine. And so now it's very difficult to convince people to add new wetlands. I think at Aquafin we see wetlands more as an extra step, maybe as a tertiary effluent treatment to take out even more nutrients, and also as stormwater management. Because now in Flanders, I don't know how it is in other countries, but in Flanders, stormwater runoff is still considered clean. Also in all European legislation, it's considered clean, except for CSO, but this is something different. So now we really don't have a trigger to purify rainwater. So wetlands in Flanders are quite difficult because you have no legislative trigger to implement them on stormwater, and you already have the existing wastewater treatment plants that are treating the wastewater. So for now, this is definitely not really something that we are implementing. And also our operators are not really fond of different systems. That's definitely, we are trying to implement more infiltration systems. And I'm working on that now since 2014, something like that. And we really have to educate them and hit the same.
I was actually more mentioning what you said at the end, this infiltration systems, more for stormwater management, because for utility, it's easier to put them in the sewer and away with it. And, okay. And how do you organize the operation of these systems then? Who has the responsibilities, and how was this change in Aquafin?
Yeah. Well, this is changing because of legislation, actually, because of VMM, the Flemish Environmental Agency, is forcing us to infiltrate. So they want us to infiltrate rainwater, but this is specifically on quantity. So there's no issue with quality for now. I'm expecting this to change over the upcoming years. But for now, quantity is a big issue, and we are tackling serious dry spells in Flanders. So they really want us to infiltrate as much as possible. And for that, nature-based solutions do offer some solutions, because big infiltration fields are simply not possible in Flanders, because then we have to buy a lot of land, and there's no land. Then you have farmers that are complaining. And so for that, nature-based solution and smaller suds are a very good option. But still, I have to give a lot of courses to our operators. That's something I do, for example, all the time. I give courses on them, how to maintain it, and sometimes it goes wrong. And then we have to start all over again, creating a little bit of awareness, maybe. Yeah, so it's a day-to-day struggle, actually, to get them implemented. But luckily, we do have some early adapters that are really helping me and carrying the word out to the other colleagues. But it's a struggle, definitely.
Thank you. I have a question for, yes, I was going to another question for you, Marco. My question was about the matter that we said that there is no common definition, understanding of network-based solution. And so my question was, a better definition or a unique definition of network-based solution for the water sector might help in financially supporting the initiative in the long run. And of course, I mean, you are welcome to make your statement now.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, definitely. You can hear me? Oops.
We can't hear the.
Okay. Now it should be possible to. It's okay.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Perfect. Yeah. What I wanted to ask, actually, before we go to the definition, I wanted to stay on the field of legal changes. It's actually interesting to see that there have been some legal changes in the area of Aquafin, which, by the way, is also one of our biggest clients in the EU. Since 1994, we have been financing their projects with a total of close to 2 billion euro so far. And I have actually a question also for the city of Milan, the metropolitan urban area, whether they also had changes in, for example, their building codes and their water tariffs that they adopt. That's a question for both Aquafin and Milan. Did you have the adoption of stormwater tariffs? For example, in the Netherlands, there are stormwater tariffs, or in Germany, there are stormwater tariffs in many big cities, which you pay per square meter of sealed off surface. And if not, why did you not consider this?
Jessica.
Okay. Yes. No, because the question started for Aquafin, so I was thinking that they had to answer. So yeah, for the legislation, it's actually really big point that we have also. So here we are the metropolitan city of Milan, that it's in the Lombardy region, and the Lombardy region changed their legislation in 2019. So there has been a change, and also now we have also these guidelines for the implementation of nature-based solution also that HYDROUSA helped to construct. So we have some movement, but at the same time there is lacking of the administrative part. So maybe there is something about legislation, but after, when you have to implement, when you have to you know, go and yeah, and do the MBS, there are a few problems, mainly about rainwater, and as someone said before, the problem is mainly that right now there is this round table between some of the stakeholders to define how we have to treat the rainwater that go into the sewage system, and based on what. So it's really a process right now that it's, but I think like 1 year ago, it wasn't so on the spotlight, this problem. So here we're seeing so much going on, and so I'm going to let you know when we're going to reach a final setting. But yeah, it's not easy, but we see the necessity to bring some, some clearance, and yeah. So this is from our part.
Sure.
Thank you, Francesca. Any other comment on this issue?
Regarding definition, so I think it's important each community has a clear definition of NBS. I see also a possible danger in having, okay, just right now, I see a danger if each community reinvents the definition of NBS, because then the message would be that each community will work in its own arena, whereas NBS, we do expect from NBS that we are able to cope with intersectoral issues. And so I think one ambition would be that the definition of NBS is suitable, maybe not as the perfect definition for all, but for each of us, but a proper one, and in particular a proper one to allow the different communities to meet and to tackle different challenges at the same time. Otherwise, we will have a definition for water, for forestry, agriculture, for urbanization, for coastal erosion, whatever, and it will be a disaster. So I think we really have to think about the possibility to tackle different issues at the same time altogether.
Definitely, I mean that's the beauty of the IUCN global standard. It has been tested for, and it has been elaborated and as a collaborative process over several years, and it has been tested many times. And I must say, I'm so far very, very convinced about its suitability for different sectors, different types of projects, and so on. But as I said, it has been endorsed so far only by Agence Française de Développement, by the Norwegian, the Swedish, and the Finnish cooperation agencies, international development agencies, I think by the Republic of Korea, and so on. So such kind of standard would need to be endorsed, for example, by European Union or by IWA, or by World Bank or the EIB, and so on and so forth, to really give it the momentum and become more important in the international field of nature-based solutions. I tell you this because we experience the same thing with climate action. I remember some years ago we had a project outside Europe where we reported carbon footprint numbers, and AFD on the very same project, because we were co-financing, reported totally different figures. Or we had a similar experience some years ago with the EBRD on an Eastern European project. It's a mess, such kind of things, because we use different methodologies. And what I mentioned during my presentation, also the question of adaptation projects. We sometimes have discussion with our co-financiers, World Bank, EBRD, AFD, and so on. Is this a 100% adaptation project, 50% adaptation project, and so on? So because there are no clear standards, and we definitely need this to have a better understanding, but also to avoid greenwashing. Yeah? If you replace concrete by just a few bushes and some grass, is this already a nature-based solution? Yeah, we can have questions about it. Yeah.
Very good point.
Yes. So I wanted to make a comment. I perfectly agree that we have to have a sort of a common view and holistic approach when we look at application of MBS. And we should do that even including all the different aspects in terms of the benefits we can obtain by this kind of adoption. I mean, we are only considering the main benefits, like I'm treating the water, it's treating the water in a sufficient way. And that's the main thing we are looking at when we are designing the systems. But we know instead that these kind of blue-green infrastructures are providing a lot of other benefits, which are not considered, for instance, in the calculation of what Marcos was mentioning before, which is the natural capital losses, for instance, that can be reintegrated if you reinstall green in the cities and you reintegrate the evapotranspiration capacity and so on. And those are not normally calculated in the costs that the society has to pay when you are losing this kind of benefits, or if you are adopting gray solutions which are not providing the same kind of combined effects. So we should stop to call them side benefits. And when we are doing designs, we should do designs which are multi-purpose and considering all the different purposes with their values in the environmental, social, and economical aspects. Saying that, for instance, Aquafin is covering maybe the 100% of the Belgium, Flanders wastewater treatment needs. That's not what we do in Italy, for instance. We still have 35 of the total wastewater treatment need in the country that is not covered. And those are mainly small settlements, which are very difficult to be centralized. And here we are coming to the topic, which is a quite old topic, centralized versus decentralized. And it's true that in the big cities, you need to centralize. At least you could even go to some decentralized solutions even there. But let's say that economically, when you have a compact source which is producing the wastewater, then it's probably easier to make sewers and bring everything to a unique point. But when you are in the countryside, like we have a lot in Italy, for instance, and there are a lot of small communities which are simply discharging their water with a simple primary treatment like a septic tank, which is not so good. And therefore, how, my question that I wanted to bring in this discussion was how the European policies can help to let the stakeholders understand the importance of the decentralized concept if adopted in a proper way, when you are not losing, for instance, efficiency in the maintenance, in the long-term maintenance and so on, that instead we noted already from the 70s that is something we immediately lose if we adopt complex technologies. If we make a wastewater treatment plant with activated sludge for a municipality of 1,000, in Italy it has been a failure all the time. I mean, 90% of the time, because it was very hard to maintain them in the time, no? And therefore, those are the aspects we have to consider and to put all the ingredient in the pot when we are going to take decisions.
May I just comment on this? I don't know if you're aware that just the Commission released about 10 days ago the proposal for the update of the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive. And it's going a little bit in the direction what Fabio mentioned. And so in the proposal is that the threshold for wastewater treatment goes down to 1,000 PE, but also for the smaller systems, then there should be some European standards for design. And the member states have to ensure that this smaller systems are monitored, they're recorded, and so on and so on. There's a lot of things happening at the moment, but we cannot say what will be in the final directive yet. So there will be for sure some big discussions because it has some big implications on a lot of member states, what's standing at the moment there. And additionally, also for I think it's the threshold is 10,000 people for these urban water management plans that have to be made for the larger agglomeration. So that's also comes into place how to manage rainwater, stormwater, and all these things. And I think there's a great potential at the end for nature-based solutions in all these aspects.
Carmen.
Yes, just to add to what Fabio was explaining before about the decentralization, I think it's a phenomenon, it's an urban phenomenon that currently it's happening all around the globe in different ways. There are many different urban dispersion patterns, and there the wastewater treatment solutions with NBS is just the only real way that we can approach that problem, treating at the source, but always community-based. Because if we don't start that by talking with the communities and making them aware of this, it's not possible to implement it also in the regulatory framework. So that makes it tricky, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that we have at the end of this Water Project Europe, yeah, I mean, a bit behind the schedule as well. It has been, I mean, a great Water Project Europe from any point of view, and with great speakers, great topics discussed. I'm gonna extract, I mean, a report on with the main outcomes of and also the discussion that we had now. So thank you so much for contributing to achieving a water smart society, also through MBS and wetlands.
And thank you to our presenters today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
That's it.